Hi everyone, welcome to video 3. I am Sherry Watkis and I'm one of the psychologists with the Centre for Play and Innovation. In our segments, we've been discussing attachment and attachment-related difficulties. In today's video, I'd like to focus a little bit on the hormone known as oxytocin. Oxytocin is one of those hormones that's been given quite cute names. So it's known as the love hormone, the bonding hormone, the hormone of attachment. But basically what oxytocin does in a very simplistic form is that it stimulates the areas of the brain that are responsible for bonding as well as for empathy development. So it's a really critical hormone in relation to attachment behaviors and when we're talking about caregiver and infant attachments. So we spoke in video 2 a little bit about the holding environment and how when you create a secure holding space or a secure base, your infant starts to feel safe and secure and can then further go and explore his or her external and internal world. Now, I want to come back a little bit. So the holding environment, quite literally, in infancy refers to the holding, the rocking, the soothing, the gentle voice tone, the physical touch, the safety that a caregiver provides to an infant in their early years. That action stimulates the release of oxytocin in the baby's brain and says to him or her that, wow, I'm loved, I am valued. Similarly, it stimulates the release of oxytocin in the caregiver's brain. I'm going to speak again about mom. So particularly in the maternal brain, what happens is that reciprocal interaction or synchronicity between mom and baby, that soothing, the cooing, the softness, it releases oxytocin in baby's brain, but when baby responds and will coo softly or meet mom's gaze, possibly even in later weeks start to smile up at mom, that also stimulates the release of oxytocin in mom, which further encourages the process of empathy. And empathy is a vital response in our caregiving methods. Dads, your oxytocin gets released too. Some studies have suggested that it gets released slightly differently to the maternal release, which is more prone towards affectionate responses. Dad's oxytocin release tends to be linked more to stimulatory proprioceptive input. So it's your rough and tumble play. It's gentle infant massage, but it's those physical body movements that stimulate the release of oxytocin for dad, as well as for baby. So both these kinds of caregiving have a place in baby's developing brain. And what it does for the caregivers is when baby responds and reciprocates in this loving relationship, the caregivers then also have a release of oxytocin. Now, oxytocin and stress are sort of mortal enemies. On the one hand, oxytocin has been known to buffer the effects of stress. So it has been known to have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, which help to buffer and repair tissue when we've been under prolonged stress. But similarly, when we've been exposed to ongoing stress, our levels of oxytocin do start to decrease. So this is true particularly if it's relational stress. So if you can imagine a caregiver that is under prolonged stress, that's running low on levels of oxytocin, running low on that ability to be empathic, that ability to be connected, and to respond in an attuned and synchronous and loving, warm way towards our kids. It starts to have an impact on the kind of caregiving that we offer our children. Similarly, if our children are not receiving that warm, loving, affectionate, playful interaction that stimulates the release of oxytocin for themselves, it's harder to respond to the caregiver in a way that is going to stimulate the caregiver's release of oxytocin. So we sit with a real disconnect. Practitioners Dan Hughes and Jonathan Balin coined the term blocked care and blocked caregiving. And I think that's such a useful term for us to start thinking differently about our caregiving. And when it becomes blocked, what's blocking it? What are our stresses that are possibly causing a chemical reaction that's making it very difficult to connect to our kids? And what in their behavior, in their attachment behavior, is further exacerbating the situation? And how do we reconnect when we've been disconnected for some time? These practitioners go on to speak about a model that they've developed. It's a model that's been used in certain therapy modalities. But I think I'd like to just touch on one of the things that they mention, and that is if you can work with the acronym PLACE or PACE. So what they say is, in order to reconnect once disconnect has taken place, in order for repair to happen, caregivers need to employ certain things to re-engage their children and to then hopefully stimulate more of this reciprocal interaction that is then going to further stimulate the release of oxytocin for both parties. So PLACE stands for the following. P is for playful interactions. L is for loving and gentle connections. The A stands for acceptance, so unconditional acceptance of our little ones. The C stands for curiosity, so showing an interest in their world. And the E stands for empathy, so modeling empathy to them so that they are able to learn empathy for themselves. I'm going to spend a little bit of time in our next video looking specifically at the model of PLACE or PACE to further help caregivers reconnect with their children and to possibly repair if there have been any attachment disruptions. What I want to encourage caregivers to do in the meantime is go and have a look at the role of oxytocin and how that plays out in your caregiving. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.